What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Taylor Hinton Speaks His Mind, the number one online health and fitness podcast in the world. Today is Friday, April 24th, and it is beautiful over here on the west coast of British Columbia. We have about, what is it? I don't know. It said like 18 degrees or something like that today, but it feels a hell of a lot hotter. It feels like 20, 21, 22 Celsius, of course, for everybody except the Americans, I guess. Hey, you know what? Today, having a conversation. I had a conversation yesterday with somebody and it inspired this podcast, as most of these do. Most of the content that I create is inspired by the conversations that I have with everybody. So I just want to say, first off, thank you so much for everybody who has shared their goals, their thoughts, their feelings, their struggles, their barriers, the things that have held them back over time, because these things stick with me. And I take the duty upon myself to help individuals by creating different forms of content and whatever is the most consumable way for them, whether it's long form like this on Apple Podcast or YouTube. And then, of course, you've got all the real oriented content that I share as well and stuff like that. And so, first off, thank you so much, because the conversations don't they don't just fly under the radar. They mean a lot to me, and it helps me help you and others. And today, what I'm going to be talking about is how your fitness floor will dictate the results that you get for the rest of your life. Because most people don't fail because they aim too high, but they fail because they have no floor. They have no basic minimum standards for themselves when it comes to fitness. Because we can all get really excited and motivated at times and do 2 workouts in a day and double their protein intake. Not that you should ever do that, but you know what I mean? It's really easy to get inspired by a movie or a video or a song or maybe a life event and start taking action when you're feeling really good, when life's convenient, when the sun's out, when you have more energy. But people fail not because they're shooting too high, it's because they have no baseline. There's no foundation, there's no floor. And the second that life gets inconvenient, they drop everything. Training stops, their steps drop, their nutrition disappears, and then they're wondering why they're always starting over. So I want to help solve that for you today, and I want to help you establish a floor for yourself, because it's not always about going balls deep. It's not about being the Jocko Willink, David Goggins, super hardcore fitness athlete who all they do is work out and eat right and sleep perfectly and have this incredibly perfect catered routine that fits their dream lifestyle. That's the shit that we see online. That's the stuff that's not realistic for 99% of us. So why don't we hammer home the things that are most important? Maybe the boring stuff, but the stuff that actually is going to get you the results that you want, right? So if you don't have a minimum standard that you refuse to fall below, then you simply don't have discipline. You have some motivation because you get fired up sometimes, but motivation, as we all know, is unreliable. It's fairy dust, just like Matthew McConaughey in Wolf of Wall Street, right? So what is your fitness floor? What exactly does this mean? Your fitness floor is the bare minimum standard that you execute on regardless of your mood, your schedule, or your circumstances. Okay? Regardless of how you feel, regardless of what your schedule looks like for the day, or what type of life circumstances have been thrown your way. And the reason why this matters is because without a floor, every time you have something that disturbs your schedule, you reset back to zero. But when you have a floor, you maintain momentum and keep your identity as somebody who is making massive lifestyle changes. Again, that doesn't mean the whole purpose of this is to understand that not every single day is going to be balls to the wall, 110% effort, perfect execution. It's unrealistic. Obviously, there's going to be days or even weeks, maybe even months, where you're able to have this really successful, really productive role where things are going great. That's not going to last. Everyone knows that. And if you know that it's not going to last, you expect and anticipate that things are going to fall apart a little bit, and you have to kind of figure out a way to pull yourself together and get the bare minimum done. Then isn't that going to help you stay locked in a little bit better? Is part of the reason why you have never reached your goals, the ultimate dream physique that you have in mind, Maybe you've reached it even, but you haven't ever maintained it. You've never been able to get to a place where you can be perfectly content and just in a nice, sustainable maintenance phase. Doesn't that sound great? Doesn't it sound great to be able to get to where you want to be and then just be able to coast? You're not going to always want to coast, but it's nice to know that you can. That removes a lot of stress. And I'm sitting here telling you, as somebody who's living this lifestyle day by day, there is not one week that I can call on in the past, I don't know, 3 months at least, where I've nailed it 100% perfect every single day. There's a day where maybe it had too much food, or 100% more often than not lately, pushing my workouts around to different days, ultimately getting a workout on the weekend. That's totally normal. And if part of the reason why you've never gotten there, or maybe haven't even started or tried, is because you have this fear that you're never going to be able to stay consistent with it, this podcast is going to fix that problem for you. So you can step into it, you can keep going, keep your momentum up, and anticipate that things are not going to go your way, but you can still keep going. That's the beautiful part of all of this. Okay? So, quick example here. Had a conversation with somebody recently. They were really consistent with their training. They had lost up to 20 pounds. Their diet was on point. This is something that they haven't really done for a long time. And they were going for like 3-4 months straight. They were getting really excited. Things were going really well. And then, boom, lost their job unexpectedly. Thank God this individual had some savings. They're able to pay their rent, get their groceries, do what they need to. But obviously, that's extremely stressful. Trying to figure out what they're going to do next for work. They were in an established role with a lot of opportunity to move up, and all of a sudden stripped away from them, and they're starting from zero again. So thankfully to this person, because they were really open and transparent about where they're at, and they were really good at taking feedback. They didn't take it personally. They took it as professional criticism. And I know that they're going to take action, and I'm excited for them. But they straight up admitted to me, they're like, you know what? I've straight up been just treating this time off like a vacation. Because I don't know when I'm ever going to have many like months in a row off of work until I'm retired and I'm old and gray, won't have as much energy or desire to do things or whatever. So they were like, you know what? I'm going to kind of take it as a bit of a vacation. So their workouts slipped a little bit. The big thing that they admitted to me was that their steps completely plummeted from 10 to 12,000 steps a day on average, including their work, because it was pretty active work. They went down to 3,000, 2,500 steps, maybe 4,000 on a good day. But they're, tracking their steps, and they're day after day, week after week, barely getting any movement in. The days that they were getting over 4,000 were workout days. And that's just because they're moving around the gym, going from station to station. But other than that, not going for walks, no runs, hiking, just generally being active. Doesn't have to be a big workout, but just moving their body. They were like, I don't want to. Right now is my vacation time. I'm going to soak it in. And I can understand that sentiment to a degree. But this person has no floor. And it's going to hurt them. It's going to hurt their momentum. It's going to hurt their identity shift that they've been making. It's setting the precedent that when things don't go their way, or they simply don't feel like it, they decide not to. They say, I'm just going to go with my feelings and do whatever feels good right now. Their activity dropped to near zero. And inevitably, what that's going to lead to, because life's going to pick back up again, right? They're going to get a job. That's the whole point. They're now restarting, and it feels like this massive shift rather than just this manageable coasting back into normalcy in terms of having a job. So here's what you need to do. You're going to want to write this down. First off, start by identifying 3 to 5 behaviors that you will execute on no matter what. This is not your ideal days. This is not your dream scenario. This is your nightmare scenario. This is your worst day ever scenario. There's maybe a little bit of an asterisk that comes with that. Obviously, you have, inevitably, there's going to be people that are close to you in your life. Parents are the first one I would think of that are going to pass. There's going to be some really traumatic days. And there are days where you will need to take an entire day off. I'm not saying to work out every day, but what I am saying is on your average low day or week, or even more than an average low day, maybe it's a pretty shitty day. Maybe you just walked in on your partner and they're getting it done with someone else. Who knows? Terrible days. You know who would probably be the only thing that'd make you feel kind of okay in that scenario? Going for a walk in the sun, getting outside, moving your body, breathing in some fresh air that's being poured into you by the trees in your area, connecting with nature a little bit, getting your mind distracted away from the everyday distractions like your cell phone and everything else that we're always putting in front of our faces to distract us from our thoughts and feelings. So define 3 to 5 behaviors that you will execute on no matter what. And if you're thinking, well, Taylor, I don't know what that should be because I don't even know what my standard should be. Like I'm in a place of I know that I don't know anything. No worries, I got you. Duh. That's what I'm here for. Here's what I suggest if you don't know where to start, what your floor should be. Okay? Your floor, and this is your average person, should be a minimum of 8,000 steps. On a weekly basis, we're looking for an average of 8,000 steps per day. So what does that mean on a day that you only get 6,000 steps? The next day you get 10,000 steps. And all of a sudden, magically, voila, you have an average of 8,000. See what I'm saying? 8,000 steps per day on average should be your general activity. You should have 3 days out of the week where you have structured fitness happening in addition to your minimum 8,000 average per week, per day, whatever the hell you want to call it, steps. So what would that 30 minutes be if you don't go to the gym and you don't have equipment and this is your floor, right? What does that look like? Well, it could look like your 8,000 steps plus, and again, it's 30 minutes, 3 times a week would be the fitness floor, plus at minimum a 30-minute walk jog interval. So your normal little walk that you do around the block that takes you 30 minutes, now instead you jog for a minute or you turkey trot for a minute, which is something between a jog and a walk, like it's barely going, right? It's like when you're literally feeling like you're cramping so hard you can't move. But imagine you were in the military and they were like, run, you son of a bitch. I want to see you sprint. And you're barely picking your feet up like that. It's almost the same pace as a walk. That's kind of what a turkey trot is. Little touch bit faster than a walk. So anyways, it would be an interval of 1 minute jogging and 1 minute walking. Cool. There's your 30 minutes of structured physical activity outside or in addition to your 8,000 steps. Cool? Cool. For every 10 minutes, by the way, this is a quick little, how long is it going to take me to get 8,000 steps? What about this extra 30 minutes? What's that all equate to? 10 minutes of walking should net you about 1,000 steps on average. And that would be kind of on the lower end. That's a more conservative number. If you're moving a little bit quicker, maybe 12 or 13,000. If you're doing like a power walk, you're really trying to get as many steps in as you can. You might be getting 1,500 steps in 10 minutes, but somewhere between 1,000 and 1,500 steps over a 10-minute window. That's kind of what you should expect. So this is 80 minutes of total stepping for the day would be the minimum fitness that you're going for. And that can be spread out, right? It should be spread out. You do 10 or 15 or 20 minutes here, and then you break it up over here. After lunch, you go and move your body a little bit, help the digestion a little bit. After lunch, you feel a little bit tired, a little bit snacky. Instead of taking a nap and laying on your ass, go for a walk. Get your body moving. Move the blood around. Help with the digestion a little bit. Low intensity activity helps with digestion, like going for a walk. It actually does help with allowing your body to digest and utilize those nutrients a little bit better. So that's what your fitness floor would be, is 30 minutes, 3 days a week. Your nutrition floor doesn't even need to be tracking your macros. It doesn't even need to be tracking your calories. I don't even care if you hit your fucking protein. Here's the rule. Here's the floor for you. Don't be a glutton. What that looks like and feels like is when you are done eating, i.e., when you are satiated, when you're full, stop eating. If you don't need to, if you're not hungry for food, then stop eating. That's where you stop. That would be the floor for your nutrition. More of an intuitive approach. But this is assuming your battery's died on your food scale. You don't have access to the internet, so you can't track in MyFitnessPal. Again, the floor, everybody, the floor. When you are full, stop eating. Of course, you should be prioritizing whole foods if you have the option to have something that has more protein and is more nutritionally dense, whole food based, or you go to McDonald's, you had the option to have the whole foods. Obviously, you should be picking that. I don't need to tell you that. But at the end of the day, stop eating when you have curbed hunger, right? Because the intention is, I'm going on the assumption that everybody here listening wants to be lean, fit, athletic at the very least. So over consuming calories doesn't really help you stay lean, right? Pretty simple, straightforward stuff. That's your fitness floor. Your fitness floor is 8,000 steps per day on average per week. It is 30 minutes, 3 days a week of structured activity, which could be as simple as just 30 minutes of alternating between walking and jogging. And don't stuff yourself. Stop eating when you're full. That's it. That's your fitness floor. Okay? The point is that most people operate based on how they feel, not what they've decided on. When your feelings fluctuate, when they go up, when they go down, when you're not feeling good, when you're feeling great, your standards, at the very least, they don't. Okay? That's really important. That at the very least, even though your feelings are up and down, you got a ton of stuff going on emotionally, the standards don't shift. And this may be one of the reasons why some people see me, and I'm sure plenty of other fitness coaches online, as really direct or aggressive, maybe even say something like that I'm mean. I just have a very clear standard for myself and for my clients around their fitness. And although emotions can play a role, they shouldn't dictate your execution. Okay? Bottom line. I can understand that things aren't going your way. I can understand you don't feel good. I can appreciate, I can even empathize with that. But when we're talking about objective reality, not doing the basic minimum stuff, not meeting your floor because of your emotions, is setting a precedent for you to never achieve your goals. And I know in the moment, whenever you're going through that emotional turmoil, you don't feel good. In that moment, you probably don't care about your standards. You probably don't care about your goals. You care about how you're feeling. This is the fundamental shift that takes you from somebody who constantly wavers on their goals and is constantly restarting and is constantly getting a do-over and is constantly dieting. You're that person who's always dieting, always doing it. It takes you from being in that place in your life to a place of consistency, of momentum, of getting fit, of staying fit, of keeping your results, of being the person that others look to and go, I wish I had it as easy as them. If only I had their lifestyle. Well, they just don't have XYZ problems to deal with, and I do. That might be where you're at right now. Doesn't have to be that way. It's not supposed to be that way. You could be the person that other people are pointing to and being jealous of. It's a decision. It's understanding that your standards are more important than your emotions. And if you behave depending on your mood, you're inconsistent by design. That's the reality of it. It's not me being mean, picking on you, pointing out any one individual as I'm sitting here talking to the void. That's just the objective reality. If you don't want that to be your objective reality, you have to understand that your emotions cannot dictate your actions. It's as simple as that. It's not easy, not for everybody, not for most people, but it is simple. So for example, like you just don't feel like walking. You don't feel like going for that walk because it's raining out, it's cold, you didn't get as good enough sleep. Maybe you're kind of hungry right now. It's because you have no internal rule to override that thought. If you have no standard, if you have no floor, then not feeling like walking becomes what happens. You don't feel like it, so you don't do it. But when you have that floor, when you have that standard that I do things even if I don't want to, then you get it done because you don't want to break promises with yourself. Because every time you break promises with yourself, you become a liar. At the very least, to yourself, which matters more than being a liar to anyone else. Now, what kind of liar is walking around with their chest puffed up and a big smile and feeling really confident? Not many. How many liars do what they say they're going to do? Not many. And if that is your precedent, if that is the standard that you set for yourself, then inevitably, unsurprisingly, you're going to be somebody who's constantly falling off and constantly trying to find your way back. So instead, replace the I'm going to try to. That doesn't mean anything. What does trying to get your walk in mean? It means that you think about it really hard for a little bit. We have to get serious with it, everybody. Instead of I'll try to, it needs to be I don't miss this. I have to get this done. So in that conversation that I had with that individual who so graciously was transparent enough to inspire me to make this podcast, they said, well, sorry, I have to make sure that make sure that I'm saying this correctly. I don't want to put words in this individual's mouth. They said, I don't necessarily feel like going for a walk. And on the days that I do, sometimes this is what I was trying to get at. My partner, for example, on this one day, I had every intention of getting my workout in, but then they asked me if I wanted to go to the movies. And I want to have balance in my life. This is what they're saying to me. I want to have balance in my life. If my partner invites me to go to the movies, I want to go to the movies. I don't want to tell them, sorry, I got to go to the gym and work out. Cool. And I said this back to them. I said, you know what? I'm 100% on board with that. That would be lame as fuck to be like, yeah, I got to go work out. I did that when I was in my early 20s because I genuinely want to go to the gym more than I wanted to go to the movies with my girlfriend. But now it's like, well, guess what? Hold on a second. Let me ask you this. If you're not working right now, you have at least an extra 8 hours, at least, right? Assuming you work from home, but you don't. You travel, and because you're trying to excel and move ahead, you're probably working more than 8 hours, at least some days. So let's say at minimum, between your commute and the work hours and all that shit, you've just bought back, because you don't have a job right now, 10 hours of your day. There's no one in the world who can convince me that they don't have time to go do a workout when they just added somehow magically, in the case of losing your job, 10 extra hours in your day. Most people fit in their workouts when they're working 2 jobs and have kids and have all this other shit going on, all these other stressors that are happening in their life on a daily fucking basis, and they get their workout done. You just got 10 more hours back and you're like, I got invited to the movies. Hey, maybe you get your workout done before the movies. Maybe you have a standard for yourself, a minimum floor that you get shit done. So guess what this does? This forces, it's so cool because when you have this floor, when you have these minimum standards for yourself, it automatically forces you to prioritize these things. If it's a priority, then you're not going to want to miss it. How are you going to make sure you don't miss it? You plug it into your schedule. What time are you going to plug it into your schedule? You're going to plug it in the evening when you have the potential of getting invited to go do random things? Or you're going to get it done first thing in the morning? It doesn't have to be first thing. Maybe you're getting up at like 7 or 8 because you're chilling, you don't work right now. Cool. Get up, have your coffee, maybe you make your breakfast, maybe you play some video games for an hour. Get your workout done in the morning. And then after that, now you've checked the box of the minimum floor. Right? Now, if it was me, which it was me when we all went through COVID before I was an online coach, I was like, oh shit, I'm going to be In my mind, I was like, cool, this is like my one time where I get to do like double workouts. I'm going to be training like a CrossFit pro athlete. So I was like, I bought a weight vest. I'm going for runs in this weight vest. I'm going to the park and I'm doing a bunch of calisthenics. It was badass. I loved that shit. But I don't expect that from anybody. And I'm not judging this person for not wanting to do 2 workouts a day. Of course not. But God damn it. If you have a floor, if you have a workout to do, what are we doing waiting until 6 p.m. to get a workout done when we have nothing else to do all day? Why are we doing that? Why are we making it the last thing to do? Why are we putting off the workout so far? Is there's that much friction around activity and fitness for you? If there is, that's a huge fucking red flag you have to address as an individual for yourself. Because whether you want to do it or not, you should do it. And because it's part of your routine and your identity that you do things you say you're going to do and that you're going to get fit and you're going to stay fit, you're going to get it done early. So you don't put yourself in a position where you have to debate whether or not you're going to go out and have fun and have a social life or go to the gym instead. Don't act like you have no balance in your life because you put off your workout until 6 p.m. and now you're going to go to the movies instead. All that does is creates this internal guilt and friction around exercise. Now you feel like an asshole to yourself because you didn't do it. So, I mean, I shouldn't have to spell that out, but if you have a priority in life to be fit, if you have a minimum floor and it has to get done, why jeopardize doing it in the evening when there's an opportunity potentially of something coming up? People are not calling you at 7 a.m. on Tuesday to go to the movies. They might do it in the evening though. That is a lot more realistic. Get your workout done early. Make it a priority. There's something happening on a subconscious level when you're constantly putting off things that are supposed to be important to you. It means that realistically, they're not that important. And it means that you're going to have so much friction around that activity that you're supposed to do. And when it comes down to your fitness, as it should be part of your identity, that creates a lot of internal turmoil. If you're constantly dealing with internal turmoil around things you're supposed to do on a daily basis, does that make you happy and guilt-free and energetic and confident? Or does it do all the opposite? Does it make you feel like a loser? Does it make you feel like somebody who doesn't hold standards to themselves? Does it make you feel like maybe you're a bit of a liar because you say you're going to do these things and you don't do them? Compound that over the next 6, 12, 5, 10 years, 6, 12 months, 5, 10 years. How does that affect your mood? How does that affect how you show up in your life? How does that affect how you show up in your relationship at work? What does that mean ultimately for your ability to have a family, raise a family, be a happy person, be in a good mood, make more money, all those things? Fitness is part of your identity. It needs to be. If you care to be fit, and it's beyond just having abs and a nice ass, okay? This is about having good energy and being strong, being fit, being a capable person, being somebody who has access to the simple things in life. I can't imagine feeling so restricted in life that I couldn't go for a run with somebody, or I couldn't go for a hike, or I was embarrassed to see photos of myself. I can't, I don't get stressed. That would stress me out. That would make it very hard for me to constantly get up and show up as my best self. And if it's true for me, I'm sure it's true for some of you too. Have a floor. Your floor isn't about getting results. It's not about pushing. It's not about making more progress. It's about who you are when things get hard. Okay? You don't lose progress in your bad weeks. You lose your identity. And then once your identity slips, your behavior follows. Right? So for example, say you have like 2 people. One person hits 8,000 steps a day. There's still somebody who at least got some movement in. They get to check that box. Versus somebody else who just does nothing. They just sit on their ass and they're like, oh, I got 1,500 steps in because I took a shit and I made some lunch and I walked from my couch to my bedroom and back and forth, taking multiple naps a day. There's somebody who is off track. They're stuck. They're plateaued. They've lost their momentum. They've lost their motivation to do those things. Which one of those individuals do you think is going to have a better time transitioning back to real life when they get a job and they start moving again? Is it the person who is still staying at least relatively consistent with their fitness and all they're doing now is integrating work again? Or is it the person who goes from 0 to 100? Which one is more sustainable? Which one is more realistic? Which one is easier to be consistent with? It wouldn't be hey, even as somebody who fucking lives for this shit, that would be a pain in the ass for me to go from 0 to 100. Also, I don't want to go back to the gym after 2 or 3 months being off and feeling weak and soft. That sucks. Everyone knows that. It's not even just part of your ego. I mean, it is part of your ego, but it's not exclusively your ego. How much fun is it to go to the gym after having multiple months off and then feeling like absolute shit? You feel weak and tired. How motivating is that? How much fun is that? Obviously, you have friction around fitness. Not because you're not motivated every day, but because you have no floor. Because when you're not doing your normal stuff, and I'm using this example of this individual who is out of their, isn't working right now, but there's so many other little things that are less monumental that it doesn't have to be multiple months. It could be just like a couple weeks or something. Like install your floor at that point, right? Ask yourself, like, what does someone like me do on a bad day? That's what you need to write down. That's what your floor needs to be. Your floor needs to be embarrassingly simple. If your floor requires any level of motivation, it's not a floor. Okay. God forbid you have to be motivated to get to 8,000 total steps in a day, including the walk to and from the bathroom and the fridge and the bedroom. This is like your total fucking steps for the day. Should not require any motivation. All right. Here's the deal. Anyone can perform really well when life is going good. Your floor needs to show up when life isn't going well. And it matters because the consistency that you have during chaos compounds faster than perfection when you're comfortable. If you know that you can be at least somewhat consistent, you know what your floor is and you stick to your floor when shit is going really poorly, that individual is going to be way more successful than somebody who just executes when everything's being comfortable and perfect. Because the perfect stuff doesn't last. We all know that part, right? Next time that life disrupts you, don't scale all the way down to 0. Scale to your floor. Okay? Most people focus on doing more. Most people are trying to raise their ceiling all the time. It's always about hitting PRs. It's always about being perfect or tightening up your calories that much more, getting that many more steps in, more than 10,000, more than 15, more than 20,000. Instead of at least just failing less. Failing less ultimately is going to lead to so much more success. That person is going to make way more progress than somebody who's constantly trying to push the needle and then always falls off when things are going imperfectly for them. Your results are dictated by so much more than by your worst weeks than by your best ones. Because you're going to have, even if you were like really, really good for 3 weeks in a row, right? And then you had 1 week where things kind of throw you off a little bit and then it's like, whoa, everything falls apart. You start eating like a pig, you don't work out, you're not moving, you're not getting your steps in. Versus somebody who's like 80% all the time. Like they're always at least 80%. Multiply that over the next 10 years or even just 1 year. Who do you think is going to be more successful? The person who's aces 3 weeks out of the month and then 1 week is completely sabotaging themselves, or somebody who's just like 80% dialed in? 80% on average, most people work out weightlift 4 times a week, right? So if you're 80% on your workouts, that's not even missing a workout every week. That would be like every other week. So you get like 2 weeks of good work, 1 week you miss a workout. That's what that would look like. That's not that bad when you're working out 4 times a week, right? That would be like, so 5 out of 7 days a week would be, I think it's like 76%. I've done this math before. So if at 80%, that means that Monday to Friday, you're dialed in Monday morning and afternoon, like breakfast and lunch, you're good to go on Saturday. And then Saturday evening and all of Sunday, it's not a complete sabotage, but maybe you're just not tracking. You're going back to your floor, right? You go back to your floor on Saturday evening and all of Sunday, meaning that you're not tracking those meals, but you're not eating like an asshole. You're at the very least eating until you're just satisfied and then you stop eating. That person's going to make way more progress than somebody who is perfect on their macros and calories for 3 weeks straight and then completely sabotages for a week. Second person is going to win every single time, especially over a longer time horizon. I'm talking about like literally more than a month. So if you care to be fit for longer than a month, be the second person, be 80%. I know it's not as sexy. I know it doesn't sound that cool. I know it's not as motivating to think about always being imperfect, but I'm telling you right now from personal experience, that's what it's like. For anyone, let me squash some potential misunderstandings about me. I am not 100% dialed in all the time. I routinely have a little bit more food than I should. It happens probably once a week. It's not a lot, maybe 3, 4, 500 calories on one day, but I'm dialed in on the other days. I really don't miss my workouts. I mean, sure, it happens now and then, but I'm I'm pretty fucking locked in, but I'm not perfect with it, right? Even earlier this week, I had like less than 8,000 steps. Oh no. But that shit doesn't stress me out because I know what my floor is. I know that one day of being a little bit imperfect isn't going to make a fuck of a difference because I'm probably about 90%. I'm like 90% most of the time. That's a lot more freeing than thinking that you have to be perfect all the time. That's the reality for me. The difference between you and me is that I'm cool with having a day where I slip a little bit because I know what my floor is and I'm at 90% all the time. And on top of that, probably most importantly, I've been doing this for 20 fucking years. Okay? I'm not incredibly jacked or fast or strong or any of those things. But I've been doing it at a high level, not excellent, not perfect, not elite, whatever terms you want to use. I wouldn't consider myself that. I would say high level for 20 fucking years. And if that sounds long, like how much longer do you plan on living? Do you plan on dying in the next 10? No hard feelings to anybody who has any circumstances going on in their life. But if you plan on being fit for the rest of your life, which I hope that you do, this isn't a trend. This is your life. This is the quality of life that you're going to live. The types of things you have access to, the confidence that you have, how you look and how you feel every single day. That is supposed to matter a lot. It's supposed to be important. And yes, you should care how you look. It's not the only thing. It's not the biggest thing. It's not even number 2 or number 3 for most of you. And that's totally okay. But anyone who's saying that they don't care about what they look like, but they're consistent with their training is a liar. They care about how they look, even if it's just for themselves, even if they're not comparing themselves to somebody who is quote unquote elite. They care that they look at least okay. And you should too. I know it's taboo to say these things. I know that it feels egotistical for most people to think this way. But speaking from personal experience, learning to lean into your ego while being able to acknowledge that you can't fully throw yourself at your ego and let it lead the way can be helpful from personal experience. I'm sitting here telling you as an individual who's been doing it for 20 years, it helps. It's okay to lean into your ego a little bit. Society doesn't want you to think it's okay. Society wants you to shut up and be happy. Just be happy with where you're at. That's not fair to you because you're not. If you're not happy where you are, you don't have to conform to what other people are saying that you should do. Fuck that. It's ridiculous. Your standards are higher than what society's are, which, by the way, isn't saying much. Now, I don't know what your standards are. I'm just saying society standards are relatively low. But you probably have higher standards. If you have higher standards for yourself, own that shit. Like, you only have your one life to do everything that you want. And if you're being held back by the concerns of other people who aren't going to be at your fucking funeral, then it's sad. Care more about what you think and what you want more than anything else in the world. It sounds selfish, but I'm telling you, when you put yourself first, you have more energy, you have more capacity, you have more bandwidth, you have more patience, you have more empathy. When you work yourself into the ground really, really hard, not all the time, but sometimes, you push yourself to find the wall. What is that wall that's really like? How far can you really go? And you test that every now and then, it does something for you internally. It does something in your brain. You unlock a new level of confidence that you didn't know that you had access to. And that is something that you can give to other people. I like to think of myself as an example of this. I've done this for my entire life since I was 10 years old. I'm 30. I'm almost 31 at this point. Pushing myself really, really hard. So I know what I'm capable of, and I know that other people are capable of more too. And they want it, but they're scared to go for it. So that's part of why I do what I do. That's what gets me excited about helping people with their fitness, because I know that it's not just about having your abs and having a nice ass. It's about how you show up every single day. And if every day you feel like shit, or you're constantly fighting with yourself internally with, I want to look good, but I don't want to work hard. I want to look good, but I don't want to admit that to other people because then I'm an egotistical asshole. Fuck what they think. Stop falling down to the standards of society. Society's floor is much lower than what I'm asking you to do. Okay? Audit your last 30 days. Start here. And find the lowest days where you felt like absolute shit. Take a look at the steps on those days. What were those? Raise that to 8,000, in my opinion, at least. Again, you don't need motivation. You need to have a standard, because the truth is, when life gets hard, you don't rise to your goals. You fall to your systems. And if you have a system in place, then you don't have to be guilty. You don't have to feel like an asshole. You don't have to feel like you're restarting all the time, because you have a floor. That floor keeps you in momentum when shit is hitting the fan, when shit sucks. So the question is really, really simple. Like, what is the version of you that is still going to show up even when everything else inside you wants you to check out? Okay. Anyways, thank you so much. I appreciate you guys showing up. I hope you guys got a ton of value out of this. If you have questions and you have other opinions or things that you'd like to hear me talk about, shoot me a message on Instagram, because I'm going to do a little bit more of these. That's at Hinton Nation _coaching, HINTONATION _coaching. Thanks so much. Have an amazing Friday. I'll see you guys on Monday. Peace out.